Greetings to all. I am Mrs. Deepa J, Nursing Tutor, Department of Fundamentals of Nursing, Faculty of Sri Balaji College of Nursing. The course name is Anatomy and Physiology. My topic is Functions of Integumentary System. Let's see about the functions of integumentary system. The functions of integumentary system includes first one, protection. Integumentary system involves the organ skin. The skin provides an overlaying protective barrier from the environment and pathogens while contributing to the adaptive immune system. The skin acts as an immune system to protect us from the barrier from the environment and pathogens entering in our body. The skin helps protect our body internal structures from physical, chemical, biological, and radiological and thermal damage, as well as damage from starvation and malnutrition. These are the main functions of the skin. Next, we can see the structure of the skin. This is the internal or anatomy of the skin. The outermost layer of the skin is called epidermis. Then next to the epidermis, the layer is called dermis. Then the subcutaneous or hypodermis will be seen. In that, hair structure will be there. In the outermost layer, the sweat pore will be there. Through this only we are excreting sweats. Then the sensory nerve endings also seen in the dermis. Then stratum corneum, pigment layer, and the arrector pili muscles, subcutaneous gland, hair follicles, all are seen in the dermis. Then the papilla of hair, nerve fiber, blood and lymph vessels, sweat glands, and Paschal corpuscles, vein and artery also seen in the subcutaneous or the hypodermis. These are all the structure of the skin. The outermost layer is called epidermis. Next layer is dermis. Then subcutaneous or hypodermis. These are all the structures of the skin. Next, we can see the physical and chemical damage. How our skin is protected from the physical and chemical damage. The skin is composed of tough skin cells as well as tough protein called keratin that guard tissues, organs, and structures underneath the skin against physical damage from minor cuts, scratches, and abrasions. Because our skin is tough and largely waterproof, it helps to protect internal structures from chemical irritants such as man-made detergents or even natural irritants like poison ivy. The skin is composed of tough scale cells so that we are getting protected from physical and chemical damage. It is protect our internal structures. So the skin is the largest organ in our body and this is also waterproof. The next point, otherwise these dangerous chemicals would seep into our sensitive internal environment. The waterproof nature of our skin also ensures that important molecules stay our body. Next one is the biological damage. The skin also contains important cells called Langerhans cells. These cells help our immune system fight off infectious biological agents like bacteria that try to get further into through skin and that may have been compromised by physical damage. The sebaceous gland associated with the skin secretes substances like help fight off potentially dangerous microorganisms as well. These glands also secrete substances that keep our skin hydrated and more resistant to bacterial invasions. In our body, in skin, we are having sebaceous gland. From that, we are producing sweats. These also help in body to be hydrated, and this more resistance to the invasion, to prevent invasion of the bacteria inside our body. Next one is the radiological damage. Our skin also contains melanocytes that produce a pigment called melanin. This protects the body from radiological damage via the sun's UV radiation or that from tanning beds. In our sense, skin also we are having melanocytes that produce the pigment that is called melanin. This will help as to prevent the radiation from the suns like UV radiation. Other protective role is part of our skin is made up of fat. This fat serves three large purposes. It helps cushion internal structures against any physical blows. It acts as a food source, protecting our body from the effect of starvation. It helps insulate us against cold temperature. The other protective roles includes the skin, that is, the skin is storing fat in our body. This fat helps in cushion internal structures against any physical blows, and it is source of food protecting our body from the effect of starvation, and it is also helpful for against the cold temperatures. Next one is the protective function. Our skin is also closely associated with sweat glands that help protect us from high temperatures by cooling us off through the process of evaporation. These glands also help to excrete potentially dangerous substances like urea out of the body. Through the sweat, we can excrete the dangerous secretions like urea that will be excreted through the sweats. All sorts of sensory receptors are found within the skin as well. These help move our body parts away from the potential source of damage. If we touch the hot surfaces, suddenly we can remove, like hot stuffs, when they sense danger, thereby protecting our body from great harm. Finally, the skin also important for the synthesis of vitamin D, which is an important vitamin for the building of strong and healthy bones. The skin protects the body from fractures if we do not otherwise get enough of this vitamin from food-based store. The skin also synthesizes the vitamin D, so the skin also helpful for the healthy bones and teeth. Next one is the thermoregulation. The integumentary system keeps body temperature within limits even when environmental temperature varies. This is called thermoregulation. During the winter season, the skin keeps our body warm, and the summer season, through the sweats, the skin keeps us cooling. So it is the form of thermoregulations by the integumentary system. The integumentary system functions in thermoregulation. The ability of an organism to keep its body temperature within certain boundaries, even when the surrounding temperature is very different. This process is one aspect of hemostasis, a dynamic state of stability between animals' internal and external environment. The skin assists in hemostasis, keeping different aspects of the body constantly. Example, temperature. It does this both by reacting differently to hot and cold conditions so that inner body temperature remains more or less constant. In thermoregulations, the skin acts as a thermoregulator during the cold as well as the hot season, cooling the body. The skin is an incredibly large organ, so it is about 2 meters square, depending on the size of the individual, owing its location at the barrier of the environment and our internal selves. And it is relatively very large surface area. It is placed an incredibly important role in the thermoregulation. In our body, skin is one of the most largest organ, so it acts as a mainly thermoregulations in our body, that is cooling of the body. This is because in a healthy individual, when all else is held equal, their body is constantly generating heat as a result of its various metabolic and physical processes. At rest, such an individual is expected to increase their body temperature to 1 degree to 5 minutes. As a result of this process, left unregulated, this would kill a person quite quickly. The process of skin-based thermoregulation occurs through several means. The first way involves the abundance of blood vessels found in the dermis, the middle layer of the skin. If the body must cool, low body vasodilates these blood vessels. By this method, skin is cooling the body. Next one is the radiation. Vasodilatation refers to the process of expanding, for example, dilation, the size of the blood vessels, then enlarged peripheral vessels of the skin allow for greater amounts of blood to flow near the surface of the skin. This allows for our body to release a lot of body heat through radiation. Radiation, in this case, refers to thermal radiation, which is the process of trans heat through space via electromagnetic waves. The next point is convection. At the same time, if a fluid such as circulating air or water in a pool comes into contact with the skin when we are very hot, this will allow for heat loss through the process of convection. The higher the amount of our body surfaces exposed to this, usually circulating air, example, as little clothing as possible. The higher the speed of the circulating air, example, it's really windy, and the smaller the distance between the skin surfaces and the blood vessels, the greater loss of heat from our body via convections. Through the process of convections, there are loss of heat from our body will takes place. Next one is the conduction. In our skin, touches a cold object like cold drink, then we will lose heat via the process of conduction, which is the direct heat transfer of heat from hotter surface to a cooler surface, touching that hotter surface. When we are drinking cool drinks, we are feeling cool. That is called conduction. Next one is the Perspiration. The body also thermoregulates via the process of sweating. That is called perspiration. Perspiration means we are excreting from the sebaceous gland the secretions of sweating, that is called perspiration. Roughly speaking, sweating begins when the body temperature rises above 37 degrees Celsius. Sweat production can be increased or lowered as necessary. According to the environmental changes, we are excreting the sweats. If body temperature goes above the 37 degrees Celsius, automatically we are getting sweating. For instance, if we must cool down, sweat production increases. As the environment cooling down, the sweat also decreases. As drops of sweat form and then evaporate from our skin surface, they take body heat away with them. All else held equal, the greater of the skin surface area and the higher the sweat rate, the greater rate of cooling the body from sweating. This is called perspiration. With respect to body heat loss, the process of radiation and convection are most effective when the environmental temperature is below 20 degrees Celsius, while evaporative cooling accounts for the most heat lost. When the environmental temperature is above 20 degrees Celsius, and especially when it is hotter than 35 degrees Celsius. Increased humidity, however, limits the ability of our body to dissipate heat via perspiration. Arrector pili muscles. The hairs on the skin lie flat and prevent the heat from being trapped by the layer of still air between the hairs. This is caused by tiny muscles under the surface of the skin called arrector pili muscles. Under the surface of the skin, the tiny muscles is called arrector pili muscles. When these muscles relaxes, their attached hair follicles are not erect. These flat hairs increases the flow of air next to the skin and increases heat loss by convection. The exact extent to which this process helps keeping our body cool is debated. This is the functions of the arrector pili muscles. The skin's role in keeping us warm. In other hand, if the body needs to prevent the loss of excess heat, such as on a cool day, it will end up constricting the blood vessels of our skin. This process is known as vasoconstriction. Since the blood vessels are narrower than they were before, less blood flows through the skin and thus less heat can escape into the environment via radiation, convection, and conduction. The body will also limit or stop the process of sweating to minimize any evaporative heat loss. In addition, our body thermoregulates using our hair. The arrector pili muscles contract and they lift and hair follicles upright. This makes the hairs stand on it, which act as an insulating layer, trapping heat. This is also how goosebumps are caused. Since humans don't have very much hair and the contracted muscles can easily be seen. This is the process of the skin rolling keeping us in warm. The next is, while this air-based method of thermoregulation is effective in many mammals and birds owing to their large and thick amounts of fur and feathers respectively. The relative effectiveness of this method of thermoregulation in humans is questioned since we have little to no body hair in comparison. Finally, while technically not a thermoregulatory mechanism, the fat associated with our skin does help insulate our body and therefore increases body temperature as a result. Next one is the cutaneous sensation. The somatosensory system is composed of the receptors and processing centers to produce the sensory modalities such as touch and pain. The somatosensory system in our skin plays a major role in touch and pain feeling. The next one, the somatosensory system. The somatosensory system is the system of nerve cells that responds to changes to the external or internal state of the body, predominantly through the sense of touch, but also by the sense of body position and movement. Spread through all major part of the body, it consists of sensory receptors and sensory neurons in the periphery, for example, skin, muscles, and organs, along with deeper neurons within the central nervous system. Through the skin, we can identify the somatosensory neurons and the receptors all over the body. While touch is considered one of the 5 traditional senses, the impression of touch is actually formed from several diverse stimuli using different receptors. First one is thermoreceptors, for example, temperature, then nociceptors, for example, pain, mechanoreceptors, example, pressure. Transmission of information from the receptors passes via sensory nerves through tracts in the spinal cord and into the brain. The processing primarily occurs in the primary somatosensory area in the parietal lobe of the cerebral cortex. Next one is the thermoreceptors. Mammals have at least 2 types of sensors, those that detect heat and those that detect cold. Upon deviation from the norm, sensory receptors trigger an action potential that can provide feedback or lead to alterations in behavior in order to maintain hemostasis. 2 receptors that exhibit the ability to detect changes in temperature include Ehrenberg's cold and Ruffini endings, that is heat. Next one is the nociceptor is a sensory nerve cell that responds to damaging or potentially damaging stimuli by sending signals to the spinal cord and the brain. These nociceptors will give signal to the spinal cord and the brain. Nociceptor can respond to excessive thermal, mechanical, or chemical stimulation and often results of generation of an involuntary motor responses. For example, pulling a hand away from the hot surfaces. This is the involuntary movements by the nociceptors. Next one is the mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors are sensory receptors that can respond to pressure and vibration. Four key types of mechanoreceptors have been described based on their response to stimulation and receptive field. Receptors can either induce a slow response to stimulation, whereby a constant activation is initiated, or a fast response, whereas activation is only initiated at the beginning and end of the stimulation. The receptive field, the region in which a receptor can sense effect, can vary from small to large. The Merkel receptor is a disc-shaped receptor located near the border between the epidermis and dermis. It demonstrates a slow response and has a small receptive field. It is useful for detecting steady pressure from small objects, such as when gripping something with the hand. The Messina capsule is a stack of flattened cells located in the dermis near the epidermis. It demonstrates the rapid response and has a small receptive field and is useful for the detecting texture or movement of object against the mechanical sensitivity that enables the motor functions. The Ruffini cylinder is located in the dermis and has many branched fibers inside a cylindrical capsule. It demonstrates a slow response and has a loss receptive field. It is good for detecting steady pressure or stretching, such as during the movement and joints. Together, they provide a wide range. Excretion. There are numerous secretory glands present in the skin, which secrete a large range of distinct fluids. Perspiration or sweating is the production of fluids secreted by the sweat glands in the skins of the mammals. Two types of sweat glands can be found in humans. First one is eccrine glands and apocrine glands. Eccrine glands are major sweat glands of the human body, found in virtually all skins. They produce a clear, odorless substances consisting of primarily of water and sodium chloride. This sodium chloride is reabsorbed in the duct to reduce salt loss. Eccrine glands are active in thermoregulations. Next one is the absorption. Due to the absorptive capabilities of skin, the cells comprises the outermost 0.25 to 0.40 millimeter of the skin can be supplied by the external oxygen rather than via the underlying capillary network. Additionally, certain medications can be administered through the skin. The common mechanism of administration through the skin is the use of ointments or an adhesive patch, such as the nicotine patch. Iontophoresis, also called electromotive drug administration. It is a technique that uses a small electric changes to deliver medicines, other chemical through the skin.